The battle for the mind of North America will be fought in the video arena.
Hello, everybody. I hope you guys are doing fantastic. Hi, Bonnie. How are you doing?
Hello, doing great.
So
How was
today,
everybody else?
it's been busy, very busy. And I think our candidate was also very busy too, isn't it?
It's true. At Edmonton Expo Center, where we're going to be having our AGM in just a few weeks' time, actually one of the largest cattle shows in Canada, called Farm for International, that is in its 51st year. I have contracted to work with that for a number of years, and I've been involved with it as an exhibitor, as a volunteer, in a number of capacities since 1980. So it's been a big part of my life.
Oh, nice, nice. Just yeah, and that's funny because that's gonna be where the AGM is gonna be.
Exactly.
And yeah, and another thing is that I live basically 1 or 2 blocks from the expo.
Oh wow! Oh wow! That's cool.
That's funny. Yeah, that's funny for real. So thanks for coming here. So today we're going to continue this series of interviews for the nominations for the board for the UCP. And today we're going to interview Mr. Rob Smith, who is running for president. I know he's currently serving as the president for the United Conservative Party, but he's going to run again as well too. And today he's going to be interviewed for that. So I'd like to thank you for your time, and on behalf of all the members, I want to thank you for your time. And I know your schedule is pretty busy with all of us, so that's good. So I want to make this question, the interview, very, very concise. We have a series of questions. We're going through the questions, and let's go through this. So first question, I think you asked, you kind of allude yourself into that, is kind of talk about yourself. Who is Rob Smith? Just a little description of what you've been in terms of jobs, career. Who is Rob Smith?
Sure. Thanks very much, Max, and thanks, Bonnie, for the time and the opportunity to talk. I am a lifelong Albertan. I am a fourth generation living in the county of Mountain View, sixth generation living in Alberta. Mom and Dad's families both came either from Eastern Canada or from the United States at the turn of the century, and so I'm a proud Albertan. Our farm is actually located in the county of Mountain View, halfway between Olds and Sundre. We've lived there since before I was 2, when Mom and Dad satisfied their dream of becoming farmers and moved there in April of 1970. I've always joked that when the movie Apollo 13 came out, and that's kind of a big deal, Mom and Dad had absolutely no idea about what happened with Apollo 13, because that was the exact week they moved from Calgary to the farm, and they didn't have a television, they didn't have anything. They had sold everything they had to become farmers. So agriculture has been a huge part of my life. I did go to university at the University of Calgary for a while when I thought about becoming a lawyer, and was a political science major, but then I moved up to the U of A and got my degree in agriculture. Worked at Olds College, worked overseas in the former Republic of Kazakhstan as a diversified business president, ultimately, for Hurricane Hydrocarbons. Then went to work for the government of Alberta as a 4-H specialist, 4-H being probably the preeminent youth development organization, a big part of my youth and something that's been a big part of my life. And then went to work as the CEO for the Canadian Angus Association. If you've ever heard of Angus beef, that's the organization that I worked for. And then I have been a private consultant in addition to working as a part-time farmer as well since 2018, which actually then stimulated my desire to become more involved in local politics. I actually, for my 14th birthday, got a member of the Progressive Conservative Association of Alberta and Progressive Conservative Party of Canada. I got memberships in both, and I've maintained those memberships pretty much solidly from the time I was 14. My first interest in politics came in the 1976 federal conservative leadership campaign, where Joe Clark ultimately won over Brian Mulroney. I was a fan of Flora MacDonald. She reminded me of my grandma, and I thought she was a pretty cool lady. And politics has just interested me always, particularly conservative politics, because to me, less government is better. And so all the work that I've ever had has been about developing people, and it's been a lot about soft skills. My degree is actually in agricultural economics, so I'm an economist by background. And people are what really, really motivates me. One of the things about agriculture is it's a science and it's a business. And so many of those folks end up working in many ways kind of alone. You're your own boss, you're setting your own hours, and you're doing your own marketing, and you kind of do everything on your own. Where for me, by not being really a full-time farmer, but focusing on soft skills and other skills, I've spent my life leading teams and building teams and being part of a team. So for me, it just became a natural progression once I became much more involved in our local constituency associations, both with the Progressive Conservative Party of Alberta, and then bringing us together as one of the architects of our unity for Old Stittsbury Three Hills in 2017, 2018. And then I desired to become part of the provincial party and step up from our Old Stittsbury Three Hills CA, just because I felt that I had the skill set to try to help bring us with a little bit stronger unity moving forward.
That's awesome. Actually,
Well,
they know
yeah,
that.
that's quite a resume. Yeah, and
That's awesome.
you fit more in than you can in 30 seconds at the forum. That's nice.
Yeah,
That's good.
that is
Good to
awesome.
hear.
For real. That's
Yeah.
I didn't know. That's just, okay. That's good. So the next question is, as a candidate, do you have a social media platform to announce your candidacy?
So I do have a Facebook page that I created when I ran a few years ago for the provincial board, and that's Rob Smith United Conservative Party. I also do have a website that is robsmithab.com. So that's where you can find my stuff, the Facebook page and the website, and it's all kind of right there.
Okay, that's
What is
awesome.
the actual email address? Is it on the website, or do you have the email address that we can get to you, or we can tell people to email you at? Just go
You know,
through the form.
yeah, I'm
Just go
honestly
through the form.
I'm forgetting that
Okay.
email address. I guess what I would always tell you is that you can get me fastest at diamondtcattle@explorenet.com, which is
All right.
DIAMONDTCATTLE at XPLORNET.com. So Diamond T
Damn.
Cattle at explorenet.com. But there is also the campaign address that I do think
Okay.
is on the website, or signing up through the website will get you that as well.
So
Okay, super.
Cattle at explore.com.
Diamond T Cattle.
That's right.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Can
that's our purebred cattle operation.
Okay. I'm gonna try to find that email address and put it on the show, on the recording as well. So that's good. So you're on Facebook, you have a website, that's awesome. Next question. Are you currently working for the government of Alberta, or sitting or for a sitting MLA, or for any governmental ministry or department?
Max, I am not. While I maintain strong Conservative Party ties, when I worked with the 4-H branch, which was part of Alberta Agriculture and part of the provincial government from 2002 to 2011, I did always declare that I had my party affiliation through the Ethics Commissioner, but I have not been actively employed by the government since 2011, and have not drawn a salary or any kind of contract work from any of those sources that you identify.
Fantastic. Next question. I know that you're currently sitting, right now you're effectively the president of the UCP, and I just want to ask you, what is justifying running as a candidate for this upcoming election?
So, as I mentioned just a minute or so ago, that I really felt that I had a skill set that could help to create more unity within our party. A couple of years ago, I talked about the fact that we were still in the process, I think, of coming together as the former legacy parties, and I feel like we're getting closer on that all the time. But the reason why I'm wanting to run for re-election, and no UCP president has sought a second term as yet, I'm the first to do so, and it isn't really for any reason other than I appreciate the work we've done as a board and the advancements we've had as a party in the last 2 years, and I want to be able to help be around to bring it home. We have a big job ahead of us to win that October 2027 election, and I want us to win it in a bigger way. I want us to win it in a bigger way for our membership, so that we actually have a stronger majority for our current leader, and I feel like we've made some strides and some steps towards doing that. Well, I want to take those strides and steps further so that we can actually win that bigger majority in October 2027.
Excellent. That's good. Next question. If elected, please give 3 things you would like to work from day one.
Well, one of the things...
And he's kind of started already, yeah.
Well, and when you put my website up there, I mean, the 3 focuses, that's really the 3 things. It's liberty, it's unity, and it's victory. The first thing being liberty. We all know that as Albertans, we have a very, very strong and a very proud tradition. And I think that it's pretty safe to say that it doesn't really matter what one's position is on independence. The vast majority of Albertans feel like we're kind of the second-class citizen of our nation. We feel like we're the driver of the economic strength of our country, but yet we seem to have a nation that I don't think the people and the provinces of our fellow Canadians want to stand against us. But boy, oh boy, we sure have a federal government that does seem to want to stifle the positive affects that Alberta can have and our own local economy. So the liberty element that I want to focus on is the fact that we just want to do better. And we want Canada to recognize, hey, let Alberta be Alberta and do our thing. The second thing is unity. I think that it's very, very important that we as Conservatives stay together. We know that it's a big tent and we know there's a lot of different ideas. And Conservatives do have this tendency to kind of want to stand on a hill that, you know, maybe is they're intending to die on. And I'm not sure that we necessarily need to do that. If we were to ever see another split like what we had in 2015, we know exactly what happens. When Conservatives split, we lose. It happened federally in the early 1990s, where we were in no man's land for, you know, almost 15 years. And it happened to us provincially here in 2015. And I think that we need to focus on that unity to say that, hey, if it's only 6 out of 10 things we agree on, let's focus on that. Hoping that it's probably more like 7 or 8, which I think it generally is. Small government, let people do their own things, make their own decisions, and have their own personal liberty within our unity. And I think that's real important. And then that final thing is victory, which is we need to get out. We need to continue to share our brand. We need to convince more people that we're Conservatives and Conservatives aren't scary, and that we can actually play the community game as effectively and even more effectively as what the left seems to do so. And we've got basically 2 years to convince the whole of Alberta why they are conservative and why they want to vote for the United Conservative Party for that victory in October 2027. So those are really the 3 things, and it's based on liberty, unity, and victory.
That's a great answer, actually. Really great answer.
Thanks,
yeah,
Paul.
absolutely. Kind of a subset to that question is, so yeah, I understand the rationale. I'm talking about operationally speaking, about what's going to be if you were to improve things or work things to or to improve the dynamic of the board. Is that something? Is it how you're going to improve? Let's say the board of communications or the secretary, like at the board level itself. Like, what is the things that you think that can be improved?
You know what, Rob, when you were talking to me just before before we started recording, when Max was away, are you able to talk about that now? Because I thought that was a really interesting exercise in improving relations between the caucus and the board. Are you able to talk about that?
I think that's fair. Yeah.
Okay, just the highlight.
So I think, Max, the answer to your question is Cynthia Moore, when she was president of our provincial board of directors, created the CA president's meetings that took place by Zoom. Of course, remember that was during the pandemic, and I was the president of Old Stittsbury Three Hills Constituency Association, and so kind of quarterly. I think, I don't know if it was actually organized on a really consistent basis. It was maybe quarterly, every couple months, we would have a CA president's meeting where we all got together. It's actually where I got to meet Samantha Steinke, who was president of Central Peace Notley. And actually when I got to meet Vicky Kosmak-Lafrenz and Jack Redekop and Patrick Malkin, all of us are on the provincial board now. That's how we all first met, were those meetings. When I got to become the president, we actually made those meetings monthly. And the reason why we did is because we have a premier, a leader of our party, that really wants to connect with CA presidents on a regular basis. And so we do that basically monthly for about an hour and a half. And then I got thinking earlier this year that wouldn't it be great if we followed the premier up with that hour and a half, with maybe another hour or so with various members of cabinet. So we've targeted and been able to have Minister Rajan Sawhney, Minister Devin Dreeshen, Minister Mike Ellis, Minister Dan Williams, Minister Dimitrios Nikolaides, and now tonight we actually just had Minister Adriana Lagrange spending kind of a minimum of an hour and 15 minutes, and sometimes even more, just basically answering questions to our CA presidents. And the reason why I think this is important is because it creates a more of a personal level of connection between our 87 CA presidents in the province, us as a board, and those ministers, in addition to our premier, where they get to hear from us, but we also get to hear from them, and we can ask them some very candid questions, some of the kind of stuff that stays out of the media, so we actually kind of know the status of where things are at and how things are moving forward. And then my goal is that our 87 CA presidents share that with their, up to 29 fellow board members on their local constituency association. And that word kind of filters out through our UCP membership through all 87 of those ridings. And it creates a little bit more information flow, creates a little bit more connectivity and personal, I think, connection between our ministers and our caucus, as well as the rest of us in the party. And I think those relations, we're seeing some really positive benefits coming out of that. And going back to your question, Max, I spend a lot of my time in every job I've ever had, including my consulting now, focused on communications, and recognizing that while communications, a lot of people might think, particularly from a political perspective, are about talking, in reality, they're a lot more about listening and hearing what it is that people truly want. And if you are fortunate enough to have enough emotional intelligence, for some people that are maybe not super capable of stating what it is they're after, you can actually help them figure it out or put it into the words that then can satisfy their requirements. I don't know that we can ever have perfect communication in our party, but I think that we recognize, and we talked about this a little bit on Monday night at the Edmonton Forum for Candidates, that we as Conservatives need to figure out the most concise, most direct, most effective way to get our messaging out. And I think that we recognize we have challenges with that across the spectrum, from the party to the caucus to the cabinet and to the premier and to the government. And I'm quite committed to working with our VP Communications and the rest of the party, the rest of our board, to try to figure out what the best way to do that is. We've even talked about creating our own news channel or like podcast to be able to help get the message out, and the youth initiative that we're working on. I think we've met some pretty exciting young people that might have some ideas about how we can do that, and maybe use them as some of the facilitators to make that happen.
Yeah,
so I
that's
think
excellent.
communication is an important thing. I'm not being critical of what we've done in the past. I just think it's a natural evolution going forward.
Yeah, absolutely. So, well, that's good. That's a very good answer. That's good. I like it. Next question. With around this is your question. This is your question, Bonnie.
Yeah, it's a topic. It's a question that has kept me involved since I first started, which is not as long ago as you, Rob, but it keeps me involved because I want to see something better. Okay, I'll just say it. Sorry, I'm rambling.
No
with
worries.
a round of legislative candidate nominations coming up in 2026, what are your suggestions for ensuring the selection process is a fair and transparent one? And of course, the background to this is that, of course, we've had some really good nominees kicked out for not very great reasons, not legitimate reasons. And I want to have assurance that it's not going to happen again. And how do we know it's not happening?
Bonnie, I think that it's fair to say when I ran 2 years ago, that was one of my primary reasons for running. And, I struggled to understand how people that were by their neighbors, and I think always the best way to know, who someone is what do their neighbors think of them. we saw some individuals that were removed from candidacy for social media comments when their neighbors had actually chosen them to be county councilors. And those county councils, in one case, had even chosen that individual then to be the reeve. And they were removed from candidacy for social media comments made before those things happened. I don't think that.
And it wasn't even a comment; it was a like on a post. A like
Sure,
on a post. That's
sure.
all it was.
And so I take issue with that. However, ironically, my very first conversation with Premier Smith the morning after I was standing by you, Bonnie, when we both learned that I had earned the trust of the membership and they chose me to be the president of the party. When I was visiting with Premier Smith the next morning, she said, "What do you think about pre-vetting candidates?" And I said, "Premier, that's music to my ears." And that's why we do now, if someone is interested in running for a candidate selection process, they can submit their information to the party and the party will do a pre-vetting. And so all this stuff happens ahead of time rather than after the fact. And it is my objective, and I feel like Premier and I together made this happen, that we should not have those disqualifications like we had last time round. Perhaps if there's some people that just kind of come as a little bit later to the game, they're not going to get pre-vetted and maybe they will face some disqualification. But I would say that probably our best candidates or potential candidates are people that know now that they want to run. So submit the information, not your candidate nomination stuff, but submit your information for the party to be able to do a screening of you, a vetting of you, and know ahead of time what you're up against. And I think that's really, really important, Bonnie. The provincial candidate selection committee that is currently put together, there may need to be some changes to it after the upcoming election. It's made up of 5 members of the provincial board and then 5 members of the party. I think we've got some great people there that are going to make the right decisions on exactly the topic that you're asking about, because it's very, very important to me. What our people want, what our members want, is what they should get.
Will there be more transparency reasons? Like if someone whose nomination or whatever candidacy is not approved, will it be transparent to them, more transparent as to why?
So one of the things I've learned, Bonnie, is it will be 100% transparent to the candidate or the potential candidate.
Yeah.
To other folks, it can't be, right? Because then we're actually violating that potential candidate's privacy. But there will be 100% disclosure to any candidate as to any concerns that the party has. There won't be anything that is a question to those candidates if there is an issue. But I am anticipating that there won't be, because I think that we've got a process in place now to ensure that things will be done ahead of time rather than after the fact.
Super.
Yeah. Good answer. Next question. Election readiness. The provincial election is in 2027, October 2027, as you would describe here. What is your overall strategy to make sure that the UCP ensures a victory in the upcoming election, but especially in urban areas like Calgary and Edmonton?
It's a great question, and probably the most important one that lays over us. I think that we all armchair quarterbacked or Monday morning quarterbacked the last campaign and recognized there were some serious issues, many of which could not really be helped. We were underfunded. We had just come through both a leadership review and a leadership campaign. We weren't really in a financial position to be able to handle the provincial election. So because of the financial position of the party right now and how fundraising is going at gangbusters, we're feeling really confident about being able to put our best foot forward financially. But that's only one aspect of it. The other aspect of it is the organization of what that campaign looks like. The day after, like just shortly after that conversation with the Premier, when we talked about the pre-vetting of candidates, I actually reached out to Jack Redikoff, because I thought when Jack and I were running against one another to become the president of the party, that Jack had some really good ideas about election readiness. And because Jack's my friend and I'd known him for a number of years before that, I knew he had some good connections and some good ideas. And so a year and a half ago, we put together our election review and readiness committee that was made up of people from all 5 regions, including Calgary and Edmonton for sure. And they reviewed what happened in 2023. They went over extraordinary reports that constituencies like Banff Kananaskis put together, which we lost by just a tiny little margin. In fact, remember, lots of people said when they went to bed we'd won Banff Kananaskis. When they woke up the next morning and the advance polls had all come in, we hadn't won it. Victor Vargas, a gentleman in Edmonton, has done some really good analysis on Edmonton ridings. So the Election Review and Readiness Committee, a committee of 9 people, including Jack, did the work, and they came up with a report and a group of recommendations going forward that our board actually approved in March of this year. So we've actually got the broad strokes election strategy done. And some of the things that actually differentiate Calgary and Edmonton from the rest is there's going to be the provincial strategy, but there's also going to be the local strategy. And the local strategy for Edmonton and Calgary differs from the provincial campaign. It is differentiated, and it is focused on some very specific sociocultural elements that affect those cities. For example, in Edmonton, the community leagues are massive. Community leagues are a huge deal in Edmonton. And the NDP have utilized the community leagues in a really successful way to get their message out and to get ingrained in the local communities. So it is my goal, once the Boundary Commission work is finally approved, that we actually get our Edmonton ridings all with candidates by the end of June next year, by the end of the second quarter. And I know that that seems like a hefty job, but we got to be committed to it. Because in Edmonton, they say they want a year and a half, or what they want is as much time. Honestly, a bunch of them would have been happy to become the candidate in the month after our last provincial election, because they felt they need that kind of time to really ingrain themselves in the local community, for people to get to know them as an individual, as well as the UCP candidate. Well, so we'll get those folks in place by the end of June next year, and they'll have a year and a half. And that's the best we can do based on the work of the Boundary Commission. We'll also get those orphan ridings filled on about that same time frame in Calgary, and then start working through the rest of them that have an incumbent or an incumbent that's perhaps departing. Get them early and get them strong, and fund them in that pre-writ period so that they can all do the things that they need to do, A, in their local constituencies, B, in their region. And let's recognize that even in Edmonton and Calgary, what happens in Northeast versus Southwest are actually quite different. There's different topics, there's different demographics, and we need to look at all of those things slightly differently through the central campaign and with those local campaign efforts. And that's one of the reasons why the constituency associations are so important to me, and that we have our ground game working out the gate with our CAs in a really, really hefty way. And recognize where the CAs are that have strong capacity, and the CAs are that maybe need a little bit of assistance when it comes to capacity. But I know it's a bit of a long answer, but I think it's worthy of a long answer, because it's really important that we do it right.
It is. In fact, you know, that was so well answered that you literally answered my next question, which is about the boundaries. Yeah, for real. That was my next question was, in fact, if there is about my next question was literally they are changing the actual boundaries. What's going to be the best course of action? Did you answer right away, which is excellent. So that's for real.
Well, Max, though, yep. I guess with respect to the work of the Boundary Commission, I do want to suggest that I feel like the majority of our UCP members who are aware of that first report coming from the Boundary Commission are pretty disappointed with what it looks like. I think that there's disappointment in terms of the reduction of rural seats, although I think that we also recognize that, you know, there would be a redistribution that would give additional seats to Edmonton and Calgary. The way it looks right now, Edmonton gets 1 more, Calgary gets 3 more, while rural Alberta loses 2. I think that we know that Calgary needs more seats, and I think we know that Edmonton needs more seats. Where the rural boundaries end up, I think we really want to push for our local members to reach out to that committee and make sure they file their reports and that they make the arguments that need to be made. Last time round, when the NDP led the process, because they were government, they actually had in that initial proposal, in what was ultimately the boundaries for what would be the 2019 election, through my own hometown of Olds, they actually had the boundary on Highway 2A, which actually separated Olds College and the town office from the formal town of Olds. And of course, that ultimately didn't happen because a group of us pushed back on it. And I just think that anyone who is concerned about the current boundary redistribution proposal, push back, it'll change, and it'll change a lot.
Yes.
And so I think that, you know, there's a lot of work yet to do, and there's a lot of work that we as Conservative members, as Albertans, can do to try to affect some change in what that looks like. But we do know it's probably going to end up being 89 ridings that will become legislation by about end of March during spring session or winter session.
Oh, that's very interesting. The other question I have is, if elected, how would you like to strengthen specifically the relationship between the local CAs and the provincial board?
It has been maybe my number one focus, Max, in my time. And I think the reason why I feel so strongly about this is that I was a local constituency association president, and I took great pride in the work we did in Olds Didsbury Three Hills. And it was important to me when I became the president of the provincial party that I have really strong ties with the CA presidents across the province, whether they had a sitting MLA or not. Because for me, as the president of the provincial party, my gauge on what our people is saying is going to come from the CA presidents. I listen to those 87 CA presidents as being representative of their 87 constituency association boards, made up of, you know, up to 30 individuals comprised from their local membership. And then I expect that those individuals are actually representing their, you know, in the range of 85,000 members across the province. So that connection and that listening and responding and connecting is so very important to me. And I just want to make it be stronger as time goes by. And how that happens is we have various, I would say, levels of commitment from our local CA presidents. We have CA presidents who live and breathe that volunteer job. And then we have some CA presidents who maybe took the job because they went to the bathroom when the discussion happened about who should be the president at their CA AGM. And so I think that if we get more and more people that are able to commit and willing to commit, that makes those CAs stronger and builds the capacity stronger, because we are going to be most successful where our CAs are successful. And that means we need to have strong CAs in Edmonton. We need all CAs in Calgary to be super strong and as strong as the ones are in the rural areas. People wonder perhaps why UCP is so strong in rural areas. I actually think it's because the CAs are so strong. So if we can continue to build those ones up in Calgary and Edmonton, I think that's our greatest opportunity for growth.
That's awesome. And the next and last question, this is a question that we asked this question to a lot of people, all the candidates.
I would ask, what are your thoughts about an independence referendum?
I will rechange my wording.
Yeah,
I will change my wording.
to be honest, because I just think that's an unfair way to word it.
Sorry.
Sorry.
So do we go with Bonnie's question then, Max? Is that okay?
Yes. Oh yeah.
Sure.
Yes.
And if you're willing,
absolutely,
your personal opinion, but if you're not, we gotta realize this is an elected position. So say what you'd like to say about it.
I think that probably the greatest fissure that we may have in our party membership right now are those that are federalist minded and those that are independence minded. And I think that it is really important that the referendum take place and that our party then end up responding to the outcome of the referendum and what Albertans say. There's a great member of our provincial board who is incredibly independence minded, who says, for Pete's sakes, UCP, stay out of this discussion and stay out of this debate, because there are people in the province that if you take a look at the very good work that the Alberta Prosperity Project is doing, every time they have one of their sessions, they're getting people who show up to those events, sometimes by the hundreds. And at the end of those sessions, they are believing that independence is the only option for Albertans. But those folks, because they may not necessarily identify with the United Conservative Party, if our party took a position on it, they might not even go to those APP events because the United Conservative Party stands for it. They don't believe in the UCP, so then they're going to be totally opposed to the idea of independence. And so this fellow member of the provincial board says, let independence leading up to the referendum be a grassroots Alberta local community level basis, because that's what'll make it pass or fail. And if you take a look, I think, at the Alberta pension plan and how there was only about a third of Albertans who seemed supportive of that when the government was talking about it as potential policy in mid-2023, and then they stopped talking about it altogether. The government got out of the business of talking about the Alberta pension plan. The Alberta Prosperity Project continued talking about it, and folks like Mitch Sylvester and Tanner Naide had dozens and dozens of those sessions across the province. And what did we learn in May of last year? Upwards of 60% of Albertans now think the Alberta pension plan is a good idea. That is what my fellow board member who talks about grassroots Albertans supporting an idea is entirely about. The government got out of the business, so UCP wasn't the Alberta pension plan party. It was a grassroots movement. And I think that it's right that the concept of independence be the same. Now, I'm going to commit to this. If an independence referendum takes place, and if it passes that Alberta wants to leave Canada by 50% plus one, preferably with 60%, would make it a whole lot easier and a whole lot more clear cut. But even at 50% plus one, I will convene the provincial board of directors to say, we need to have a special general meeting and we need to have a discussion about a question that we want to put to our UCP members that will ultimately say, okay, UCP members, do you want to be an independence party or don't you? And this won't be decided at an AGM, and it won't be decided at a special general meeting that's in person. It'll be decided by ballot boxes that get set up in every one of our 87 constituencies across the province, or 89 if that's where we're at when this happens, where every member of our party will be able to mark a paper ballot, stuff it in a ballot box, and have a say on whether our party becomes an independence party or not. And that is what I commit to.
Understood.
There you go. I think
Yeah.
a lot of us have been wanting to hear that.
Yeah. So, in a nutshell, in layman's terms, I'm trying to capture this on my head here. So, what you're saying, Rob, if I understood correctly, is that you're going to kind of use the results of your referendum to give a direction to the party, right?
100%. That's exactly right. I don't think that it's right that our political party try to preclude or try to influence the outcome of a referendum. I think that we want to win the 2027 election. And so when Albertans have spoken on this very important topic, very divisive topic, then our party becomes involved to say, okay, Albertans have spoken and this is what they've said. Depending on what that outcome is, what is our party's response to it? If it ends up being that only a third of Albertans actually support independence, I suspect that we would think that we as the United Conservative Party, which is not currently an independence party, would stay as not an independence party. Mm-hmm. But if that vote from Albertans ends up at higher than 50%, and I mean as limited as 50% plus one, then I think it is our obligation as the United Conservative Party to say, okay, the majority of Albertans support this. United Conservative Party members, what do we stand for and what do we want?
Yeah, and then the discussion starts there.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Leading to a vote that all of our members will have the right to, not just the folks that show up at the AGM. And I'm so proud of our thousands of people that show up at the AGM. Please don't think I'm negating that, because I'm not. But something as fundamental to the foundation of our party as to whether or not we're an independence party, I think that's something every single one of our members needs to weigh in on.
Yeah.
Super.
That's
so does that
super
wrap
duper.
it up for us? We kind of went over time, I think, but
yeah, that's good.
Rob, you've been very generous with your time.
Yeah,
but,
absolutely. Absolutely. Any closing remarks, Rob?
Well, we went over because I talk so darn much. So don't be too apologetic to me. I should probably be apologetic to you guys for taking so much of your time. I think this is a great initiative you guys are doing, and I applaud you for doing it. And I'm glad you gave me the opportunity. I really appreciate it. You're a couple of great Albertans and a couple of amazing conservatives, and I'm really
absolutely
to spend time with you.
And don't forget to be at the AGM. I will be there, and that will be awesome. And I'd like to thank you, Rob, and on behalf of all the members here for your time. I really appreciate it, your answers, and thanks for being with us.
Well, thank you guys. Really appreciate it.
Thank you. Have a good night.
You too.
Likewise.
Thanks very much. You too. Pleasant evening.
Yes.
Hello there. I hope you guys are doing fantastic today. This is Max here on November the 8th. How things are going, Bunny? How things are going, Darrel?
They're going really well.
They're going well. Thank you for having me.
Fantastic. So this is another series of live streams about the upcoming election at the AGM that's going to be held during the AGM for the UCP from November 28 to November 30. So today we have our second candidate who's running for president for the United Conservative Party of Alberta, and that is our friend and also member as well. We're all friends, by the way. Just saying, we said friends. We're all friends here. Darrel Komick. So thanks for staying with us today. And we're also going to go through the interviews, and thanks for being with us today. So talk about yourself. Who are you? For those of you who don't know you, just talk about yourself, what you're doing, who are you doing, where you live.
Yeah, thanks, Max and Bonnie. It's nice to be with you today, and I really appreciate the opportunity to speak to people about conservative values. That's the sort of thing that I get to talk about that every day. My wife and I, we own a small business in Calgary called the Fresh and Local Market and Kitchens. It's a very interactive place. We support 40 small businesses plus 275 local producers and food artisans. And it's something that we have worked with in various forms for 8 years. So we're very proud of our work, and we're very proud that we're able to support food sustainability and security here in Alberta. It's a big part of what we do every day. I'm very involved in the UCP. I'm the president of Calgary Lougheed. Have been there for 3 years, and it's been a very dynamic time for us. We started from ground zero. That was Jason Kenney's old riding, and we took it over. And Eric Bouchard is our MLA. Eric's a great supporter of the conservative values. He's principled conservative, and we're very happy to be engaged with him throughout. I mean, my team in Calgary Lougheed, we've been very active. We've produced a lot of town halls. In fact, our very first town hall that we ever did was the Cowtown Showdown. And after that, we had a series of them, or have a series of them. We did Let Kids Be Kids, which was about all this child pornography in schools. We did that a long time ago. We brought that to the attention of the government. And it was also about parental rights and transgender. We did one on A Better Deal by Billions. We talked about the benefits of an Alberta pension and how that framework would work in Alberta. It was a very constructive conversation. We did an Injection of Truth. Certainly, we had a lot of questions on Injection of Truth. We were trying to provide us information about the COVID vaccines and their impact on Albertans and what that might look like in the long term. We've done 2 of those. And our most recent event, The Courage to Listen, which was to develop a framework for a sovereign Alberta within a united Canada. And that was a very, very enlightening town hall, because we were able to go across the spectrum of views and positions. It wasn't just people that were like, let's go tomorrow. As an independent country, we had people that said, look, there's ways of working within the system, and therefore we should look at all the possibilities. So the output of that was actually an 81-page book that was published on our website at couragetolisten.ca, and it gives an entire framework for Alberta to be sovereign within Canada, or the steps to be sovereign and then to be sovereign as an independent nation. So we kind of gave people all the options and really trying to encourage discussion. And that's one of our slogans in Lougheed, is that we say that we win elections one conversation at a time. So that's not unlike today. I'm just trying to walk the talk and do the same thing that we would do.
And also, I just came across this website. This is your campaign website. This is currently from your website right now. So I want to take a look at this. Alberta First, for your voice to the government. And there you are, the ChatGPT version of Darrel.
Yeah, that's funny. I think they're just playing off the whole comic book thing.
Yeah.
Very good.
Entertaining kind of. It's a tongue-in-cheek thing. And if you click on the part that says "Meet Darrel" up there, you'll actually see my real face. So. There's a little place where we have the theme song there. You can click on. This is at komick.org, komick.org. You can go there, click on the theme song, and on the second page, Meet Darrel, is we really get into the nuts and bolts. We get into values. We get into that's just a few campaign positions that we want to talk about, and more importantly, we get into me, and so people can understand where I come from. Under Meet Darrel at the top there. So we try to put it out there in a way. I am not an active social media user. One of the reasons why is I find there's a lot of keyboard warriors, and they can say a lot from home, but they don't really have much to say in person or anything to add to the conversation to make it constructive. I mean, if you're going to disagree, fabulous, base it on some facts, but drifting opinion is not sufficient.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's kind of like the reasons why people go to attend to the AGM is because that's kind of drops the line between punching characters on the keyboard versus going to actually engage into a real world situation, which is awesome. I hope, and I urge and I encourage everybody to go to the AGM in this upcoming election. And also because it's a good networking opportunity. So that's fantastic. All right, let's go to the questions.
If I may, Max, just a
Sure.
second, Max, if I may. Can you hear a background noise? Is that from the website that is open?
No, it
Can
is.
you hear background noise?
I'm going to stop sharing the website.
No, I can't hear a background noise. No.
You can't hear it?
I don't
Okay,
know what
it might just be my computer then, perhaps. I'm
Um,
glad you can't hear it.
Yeah,
Okay.
Is
That's
it singing? Bonnie, is it singing to you?
A little bit.
Okay.
okay, that's good.
Maybe.
All right.
Maybe I need
Anyways.
some sleep.
No, I can tell it's definitely not on my side. Anyways, let's
Okay.
continue. As a candidate who have a website, social media accounts, we're going through that. Next question. Are you currently working for the government of Alberta? Or if not, are you currently working for a sitting MLA or a specific department or ministry?
No, I am not.
You're not? Fantastic. Next question. Explain why you're running as a president for the UCP. What stands out of the competition?
Well, I kind of have four points that I like to make with everybody. I think that the first one is I think that it's really important to have party unity. I mean, I feel like I'm on a bit of a rescue mission for party unity to bring it together. We have a very large party. It's very diverse. But I think that there is a strong grassroots section that feels underrepresented or not heard. And we need to tap into that and bring it all together because, we all have the same conservative values, right? Faith, family, freedom, free enterprise, fiscal accountability. And of course, because we're entrepreneurs, we generate the most money to give to charity. So charity and giving is a big part of who we are. The second reason is that, look, I'm a very member-centric kind of person. Like that, I think when we look at having a party, being, this role of president represents the members. And not every individual members, but the members as an entity. And, we need a strong voice to government. But like, that's one of the challenges you get. You get a lot of ridings that don't have an MLA. You get a lot of situations where the party doesn't feel that it's heard with caucus. And so it's really essential that we're member centric. And to me, like, I look at it this way: there's all this recall legislation that's going on right now. It's being abused based on ideology.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
But if we actually had encouraged or do encourage CAs, constituency associations, to be engaged with their communities and their MLAs, and their MLAs to engage with the CAs, 52 weeks a year, 4 years in between the election cycles, I think what you'd find is you'd have good defense against this kind of ideological stupidity is going on right now. But where there's a disconnect, or where people feel that there's dome disease, then it leaves the MLA vulnerable, and it's really difficult to build trust between your CA and your MLA, just in a crisis. And so I think that's super, and that's part of member centric, is that that we could help protect MLAs better. And I think that really starts with that relationship between the MLA and their boards, the MLA and the constituencies. I mean, here in Calgary Lougheed, we door knock every second week. Like every second Saturday, we go out door knocking, and we learn our community. We show up at events. We're engaged with them. So we're very, very active. We're probably one of the top 5 active CAs in between elections, and that's proving to be the right way of going.
I think that is incredible. That's very impressive.
The third part I think that's important is I'm an Alberta First person, and I'm happy to define what that means. I mean, I think that we need to take care of ourselves here in Alberta before everyone else. I do feel that we are not heard federally. I do feel that we do give a lot of money to the federal government and not get our fair share in return. And this isn't a problem that just happened in the last 3, 5, or 10 years. This has been an ongoing challenge for a long time. And you only have to look at the Supreme Court. They just ruled 5-4. 5-4 that there shouldn't be minimum penalties for people convicted of child pornography. Like, how pathetic is that? So we need to look at Alberta. We need to understand that that's why the notwithstanding clause, Section 33, exists, is that Alberta needs to protect itself. And if we don't put Alberta first, then we won't have the opportunities and the wealth that we can generate, because we have the resources to support the people that are here. So I put Alberta first. It's important to me, and I think it's important to our party that it's be Alberta first. The fourth point, I think, is election readiness is essential to winning these campaigns.
That is actually one of our questions. We can talk later on, but we can touch base on election. Basically, one of the questions that we have about election readiness is about what's going to happen with the. One of the questions about the city levels, but we can talk to that. But you can expand on that. Yeah, sure.
But I guess to me that's number 4 on my priority list of what's important, and because election readiness is essential. I've been on the UCP Election Readiness Committee. That was a review of the last election. We came up with a very detailed report, which was widely distributed internally to boards and such with recommendations. And a big part of that is being engaged again with your community all the time, not just 6 months before the election, not just a fundraising event, and then you're into an election campaign. So we need to look at this as demonstrating conservative values day in, day out to the communities that we live in, and that's essential. And if we're not doing that, then we're not doing our jobs as CAs. And the party itself doesn't really just represent a political entity. What we represent is we represent values, and these values are very important to articulate. And I find that incredibly important. I mean, look at, we wrote some amazing, tens of thousands of hours of writing policy, right? Like we've boiled it down from 850 policies through various ways of elimination, voting. Now we're down to the top 35 policies. And I'm pretty excited about these policies that are coming forward, because that is very much how governments run. They run based on policy. And therefore, when you have good policies as a party, those policies can be articulated and we can advocate for them, which we do in Lougheed. We don't write a policy that we're not willing to do a town hall about. Like, we're happy to educate our members. We're happy to educate the public. And you gotta do both. You can't just think it's going to collect dust in a line, in a book, and pray. I mean, faith is a big part of what we do, but we are the hands of God and we are that light. So we need to get out there and we need to do our part in order to move things along.
Oh, that's good. Next question. If elected, please give 3 things that you like to work on day one. And I want to be specific on that one about what would you do specifically with the subsequent boards? Like, what would you do with VP of Communications, VP of Fundraising, give more tools, focus on strategy, anything that is specific to the party itself at the structural level? What are the things that you can work from day one?
Well, team building is a big part of the role of the president. I mean, the president only is as good as the people that are doing the tasks that are represented on the board. I don't see the job of the president as in filling in the gaps. That isn't the president's job. The president's job is to ensure that there's form and structure, and that we have the very best information available, and that we actually have a plan, like a strategic plan to move forward. And in Lockheed, we have a strategic plan for our CA. And, I think that lacks. I think that the strategic plan in between elections lacks. I think that plan ultimately becomes something called election readiness, election in a box, however you want to do it. So that becomes a priority. And so then, who is our election readiness vice president? Is that the vice president of communications? I'm not really sure. Somebody has to be the point person on that because there's a lot of heavy lifting to do. So I think a strategic plan is very important. And I'm not talking something that's going to take months and months and months of consultation. I mean, we have a lot of expertise within the party. We have the executive director, we have staff, we have CA presidents that should know. If they don't know, then we're going to have to tell them what they do need to look for. And we will be as strong in the next election as our members are. And our members are driven by the CAs. That's how it works. So where we have strong CAs, we have a great chance of winning. Where we have weak CAs, that becomes much more difficult. So I think that's probably two of the points right there. And I think the third one, obviously, is I feel that there is a very large gap between caucus and the party. And that's just my impression of it. I know it's shared by many people. And I don't really have a solution for that. I mean, I don't have an answer to fixing that. But I think that in order to find a solution, we need to have some really honest conversations with people and just understand what direction we're rowing in.
Interesting question. So the next question, this is your question, Bonnie. This is your question. With around the legislative candidate nominations coming up in 2026, what are your suggestions to make sure that this election process is a fair and transparent process?
Yeah, this is really a critical part, is selecting the right candidates. I think that we have to understand that our candidates need to be committed to conservative values. Why is it that we capitulate as a party to be liberal and to be socialist? And we have these values, they're defined, they're really strong. And so I really think that we need to have fair nomination processes out there so that each CA can find the best candidates to run. I mean, if there is only one, if that's how it works out in the CA, that's fine. But it has to be open that people can challenge the incumbent that's there if that's necessary. I'm not the free pass guy. I think everyone is willing to earn their position as a MLA. But more importantly, I think that the actual candidates themselves need to be committed to Alberta. They need to be committed to the values that are defined by the policies of our party. And they just can't have their own agendas and then want to be a candidate. That doesn't really work with me. And so I'm going to be very firm on this particular point, because I think that win or lose, I will advocate for the best possible candidates representing the most conservative values that we have and that of our party.
That's good.
Bonnie, does that answer the question for you? I think we lost her.
Bonnie?
Sorry.
Bonnie,
I was
there?
muted. Sorry. Yeah, I was muted. Sorry.
No worries.
What I would like to add, and what I'm looking for, is having fair and open appeals processes. If a candidate uh, is disqualified, this business of someone being disqualified for liking a Gab post, or and then not being told about it, not having the courtesy of being told what disqualified them, even if the members don't know that, we need to have transparency. And I don't want to see funny business. We had at least 3 good candidates that I know of get disqualified over trivial matters, and that's not fair. Last time,
Bonnie,
and
I agree.
I just don't
I
want to see
agree.
that again.
I agree 100% with you. And we had a candidate, Eric, and sometimes the biggest competition is within our own party. It's not because ideologically that's where the competition lies. And we had challenges in and of ourselves, but we had to deal with that and move on. We were new to the process, so we didn't know. But I agree 100% with you in this transparency, at least to the candidate. And social media is a very dangerous situation and tool. We have to understand that we're free-thinking people. We're conservatives, right? So we encourage free thinking. We encourage speaking up in situations where we feel is important to ourselves. That's a freedom of speech. I mean, I understand the issues of abusive speech. I understand where people go over the line, and that line sometimes is gray, but we have to talk about it. But you know what? Disqualifying candidates because they have an opinion, and that opinion was posted 3 years ago on social media. I just don't believe it. And I think that as our campaign team needs to say, yeah, that was said. Yes, we did. And I did say that, but either they learn from it or they still feel that, or maybe what they said actually defines the conservative values to which we believe in. And it just sounds offensive if someone wants to take it out of context. So I'm not a big person to throw someone under the bus just because they've spoke up or they've disagreed with me or somebody else. I think we have to be objective about that. And I'm looking forward to that particular part of the process, almost as much as I'm looking forward to working with the 87 CA presidents and, of course, the leader to have a strong and united party.
For sure.
So
good. It's a good question though, because a lot of people gloss over that, but that is making sure that those candidates are really reflective and that they're good people. I know there was a situation in Central Alberta. There was 2 in Southern Alberta, so it's not like it just happened. I'm actually there's been 2 in Central Alberta, and there's been 2 in Southern Alberta that I know of. So I'm sure there was others.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I'm not even the guy in the know. Like I'm not the guy that should know that, but I do know that.
Yeah, because a lot of context. It happens every time.
We talk a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Next question. Election readiness. I think we talk a lot about it, but that's not my questions here. Election readiness. The provincial elections in 2027. What is your overall strategy to make sure that the UCP ensures a victory in the upcoming election, and especially in the urban areas like Calgary and Edmonton?
Well, I think the strength of our party lies in the values that we have and that we need to articulate and be conservative. And that works in the city as well as it works in rural Alberta. That there is no urban-rural divide based on the values of the party. It's not like the values are different in Calgary or different in Edmonton, and they're different in Marwayne, Alberta. It's not like that. We make it that way because often we think, well, if we want to appeal to somebody in a riding that is left-leaning, that we have to be more left. But if we can go identify the voters, that's essential to winning. Is you go into your riding, you identify your vote, and you get those people out to vote. So that might take you 2 years to identify who your people are, and then you need 2 years. If you're trying to do all of that in 30 days, that's a losing proposition.
Absolutely.
It's an ongoing process, isn't it? Yeah.
I agree. And the system needs to be easy to use. It needs to be the sort of thing that we can work with, that it's easy for our volunteers to work with. And look, we need to validate volunteerism. I mean, the one thing we have inside of our party is a lot of amazing people, smart people. People willing to work long hours just for values. And we need to make sure that we're validating those people. And we need to not, and sometimes to validate people, you have to say no. It's not just a matter of just saying yes. And because inconsistencies will occur because we have an infinite number of personalities, and you can't just relate to everybody on their level or my level or whatever level it's going to be. Like I said, I think earlier, the ground game is where we win. Having good policies of a party is where we win. Having a government that supports those policies of our values, that's where we win. And we want to encourage conservative voters off the couch, because how do conservatives lose? Conservatives lose because our voters don't come out to vote. It's not that they vote for the other side. It's just that they stay home. In the last election, 110,000 conservative voters that were identified, they didn't come out. So why didn't they come out? Did we not talk to them? Did we not go see them? Did whatever it was? So I think that's essential.
Max, may I ask a question? I have a follow-up question for that. What was your voter turnout in your riding, Darrel? Was your voter turnout higher because your conservative citizens there were better informed? Do you
know what, Bonnie, I hate to tell you this, I don't exactly know what the turnout was. I think our turnout was probably fairly average, but we did know where the voters were, and we went and we got them. And we identified them. We knew where they were. We almost knew how many votes we had before the election occurred. And I think that's how the opposition wins, right? They know they got X number of union members in your constituency. They know what that percentage is based on data, and then that's how they attack. So we need to be as organized as the opposition, except we need to be smarter than the opposition. And that means being proud to be conservative and to know, Bonnie, you're in Ponoka. I know where you are. I'm going to make sure you have a ride to get to the polling station. And you say, thank you, Darrel, I'm coming, right? And I said, Bonnie, is anyone else in your building or in your neighbor, do they need a ride to come to the polling station? You go, well, yeah. Do we really care? I mean, we want them to vote conservative, but more importantly, we want them to participate in the process. And that's how we do it.
Excellent.
Next question. There are changes in the electoral boundaries in Alberta. To the best of your knowledge, what are the implications of such changes and how this will affect the upcoming elections?
I don't know that we know how they're going to affect the upcoming election quite yet. And I don't think that they're final till they're final. I mean, there are boundary changes. I've seen them. Everyone's seen them. They're public to look at. Many of them look to be like wildly. I mean, I'll give you one example. So in Calgary, they added a constituency in downtown Calgary called Confluence. Okay, where that's used to be Fort Calgary. The growth in Calgary has happened in the southeast of Calgary. Like many of those CAs are right past the maximum number of people that can be in a boundary area. Yet the committee itself, Boundary Commission, says, "Oh no, we're going to plop a new one downtown Calgary." Well, that makes no sense at all. And I think that there's going to have to be a lot of challenges to this, and I just know my specific area, the changes that happen there, and I go like, what? I have no idea what you guys are thinking when you did this. Like you've split up communities, you're disconnected. I mean, there's topography, there's major roadways, there's so many things that in the way that the Boundary Commission did it. It's almost as if the Boundary Commission wrote those new boundaries to support the socialists. Like it looked to me, much of it looks that way, and I don't understand how that got to be. Fortunately, there's an appeal process. We're going through it, and I think we need to do so. Could the impact be significant? Yeah, I think the impact could be significant, particularly given how they appear. And every conservative in the province should be upset. I think in Grand Prairie, they lost the riding up there.
Is it?
Dan Williams, they wrote his right out, so that's something that we have to look at.
Oh, that's aggravating. Didn't know that. That was
that was St. Clair. St. Clair's writing.
No, Dan Williams as well.
Oh, that's gonna be a challenge.
That's nasty.
Yes, and Scott St. Clair's as well. So that's another one.
Okay.
Oh, that's okay. Next question. If elected, how would you like to strengthen the relationship between the local CAs and the provincial board?
Well, I think there's been a lot of groundwork done. There's a lot of communications tools that have come out in the last year. Samantha's really done a great job. There's a hub of information there that people can work with. They've got some weekly communication tools that you have to work with your CAs. I think that strength between the board and the CAs, on the provincial board, there's regional directors, there's the secretary, there's the communications, there's membership, there's fundraising, there's the president. I think there's secretary. I think all of those groups should have their own shadow and parallel council to talk. So we do have a president's council. We try to meet once a month. The premier often is on the call. But I think, it should work too with membership. It should work with secretaries, so the sharing of that intelligence that we have across and the experience. We have some very junior people that make their way to the top, and we have some seasoned veterans that have been there a long time. So there's a lot of mentoring that could occur that way. And I think we should also encourage that crossover of discussion. We should try to share bread with each other a little more often than we do, and just maybe go bowling, have some fun. It's just a matter of having that sense of community and participation, and not just being isolated. Because being conservative in Alberta at times, particularly if you're in an urban riding downtown, you feel pretty isolated. So I think we need to work on that. And I got to say that there's a team, Stuart, whose membership in Calgary Elbow, he's working really hard at trying to create that culture of engagement and talking, and it's really encouraging to see, and we can do it.
Oh, that's definitely good. And the last question that everyone's asking, I kept it for the very, 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 very end, about the independent stuff, right? There's some chatter amongst UCP members about the referendum vote on Alberta independence. If elected as president, what is your commitment towards UCP members given the divergence of opinion?
Well, there's a lot of opinion, but how much fact do we have? Do we have the courage to listen? I mean, I'm the guy that actually helped work and create an entire town hall on this topic so that people could be better informed. And I think being informed helps people make a judgment about it, as opposed to, again, I'm going back to just social media. This is not the best place to find facts, but we should really want to seek out the answers to the questions. And, what gives Alberta the most leverage against Ottawa? And I think that's the ultimate question, right? To negotiate for the betterment, and how do we put Alberta first? So I'm the guy that would be encouraging the discussion to understand and learn. And my opinion of independence doesn't really matter as the president, but my role as the person to facilitate the discussion is essential. And this was actually really the trigger point for me. I saw the report and I understand what happened, or I see what happened. I don't understand why it happened, but I think that conservatives are willing to have a conversation. And someone says, well, that'll paint the UCP as a separatist party. I don't know. There's all kinds of people, and we have all kinds of views on stuff. I don't think it also doesn't say that I'm just pro one way or pro the other. I want to know, I want to learn, I want to understand. So I want other people to know. Like, I might feel myself I'm more informed about the topic, but I think there's a lot of people out there who just don't know. And they haven't had the opportunity to ask someone who could actually tell them a fact in person, and by telling that fact that they would become better informed on what's being said. So I think that opportunity needs to occur. And I'm.
Are you referring to the Janet Brown report that said 60% or so of UCP members favor sovereignty, or are you referring to a different report?
I'm not really referring. I'm not referring to a report at all, Bonnie. What I'm referring to the fact is I think that a lot of people. I mean, we've done our own research. We've we've done our own technical pieces to find out where people are at about having the discussion. And I think that more than 65% of conservatives want to have the discussion because they're bombarded with the reality. I mean, the premier went around, she did the Alberta Next panel. Was that about sovereignty? Was that about strengthening Alberta? Was that about putting Alberta first? Yeah, 100%. That was all about putting Alberta first. So I think you see it there.
Right.
But people ask the question about, well, do you feel as if we should separate from Canada? I don't know the answer to the question yet. I certainly have an opinion, but that opinion needs to be based on some fact. I do know that we send $70 billion to Ottawa, and we don't get $70 billion in benefits. So what is the value? What does Canada bring to the table? What does Alberta bring to the table as a country and as a province? So let's have a look at it. Let's have the conversation. Let's not just leave these elephants in the room all the time to the point where they fester. Because when they festering really creates disunity within your organization. And kicking the can on important topics is creating disunity. So if we keep kicking the can, we're going to be more separate than we are together. Whereas if we say, look, we addressed that issue, we talked about it. I think we understand the lay of the land. We see this with the Alberta pension plan, the same thing, right? Government starts out strong, backs off, in my opinion, does a poor consultation with pensioners or people who pay into the pension. A bunch of garbage is dumped into the conversation, and then it gets into paralysis. Now, after some hard work and some educating of people, they go, wow, really, it makes sense that if Alberta's putting $9 billion in and our seniors only get $6 billion out, where's the $3 billion? Where is this money that's supposed to go to Alberta? And this is a good question, because that money actually there for us to call on? And if we call on it now, can I have it? And I think in the last budget here, the federal budget, they actually made some reference to leveraging and using the pension fund as collateral against the debt of the country. That doesn't sound right. That doesn't sound right for pensioners. So Can we give pensioners more money with an Alberta pension plan? Probably. Is it realistic for us to support our pensioners first? 100%. Should we have said, look, as a pensioner, if we actually were controlling that money, that we would be able to give you more money? We should have just said that. But a lot of people don't realize that pension is really three parts too, right? CPP is 1/3 of what many pensioners get. There's old age security and there's income supplement. That's the rest of the story. But rather than saying, hey, look, here's the three parts. These two parts are the responsibility of the federal government. This particular part is shared. They're all social programs. I mean, if we didn't put money in, there wouldn't be enough money for seniors to get money out. So to me, that sounds like there's a problem there. And you got an unfunded liability of $1.4 trillion. And you got $600 billion, whatever that number is. That's how much money you got in the fund, but you still have $1.4 trillion in obligations. So again, let's have the talk. Let's get some real facts. Let's not use fear. Let's use some strong discussion about it and show people what their real options are.
Mm-hmm.
I like that. I also agree. We need collaboration.
Absolutely. Any closing remarks?
I really would appreciate people to vote for me for president of the UCP. I really believe that my way is not the only way, but what we will see is my way is different. I think that a lot of good work has been done, but I think that there's areas that I can do better, and I can add to building upon what has been done in a way that is, put it this way. I love my dog. Okay. I love Susie's my dog. I love her. My wife, my dog, they're essential to me, my family. But if I was a dog, I would be a German Shepherd. Okay. That is the dog that I am. I'm a little more on point. I'm a little bit more assertive. I'm just a little bit more, let's get this done. And I think that's essential. And people need to understand that I'm not a wallflower. I'm the kind of person that, doesn't really take no for an answer, and I'm not one that's going to just kick the can and hope that something happens, maybe sometime in the future. We like to manifest results in the near term, because time is what we don't have. I mean, we haven't even
Yeah.
talked about digital ID. We haven't talked about what happens if we have digital money in the country. What impact is that going to have on sovereignty of the self? We haven't even gone there. But these are all things that we need to be well informed in advance, so that we either understand how to work with them or how to protect the sovereignty of the self. So I hope that people will understand where I'm coming from, and that they'll vote for me at the AGM.
Sounds good. Any closing remarks, Bonnie, before we start recording?
Just a thought that I had. The constituency associations are the front lines of Alberta politics, and so I look forward to hearing more about your ideas, Darrel, translating to how the CAs can use your ideas in the election readiness, in the communicating. Each CA is an island right now, and we need someone who can tie it all together.
Yeah, thanks, Bonnie. I think I can do that, because
I appreciate that.
I think Bonnie, to your point, in Calgary Lockheed, we've tried to demonstrate since the election what that form and shape looks like. We have engagement on multiple levels in our community, and you need to this is the beauty of rural communities. Rural communities tend to have they're a little more homogeneous. People think that the urban community is easier because you can go knock on doors and they're in a sequence. But the urban communities are much more heterogeneous. There's just so much more options available there for people to do and to have interests, and so it's much more challenging. So we need to be engaged all the time, and we need to ensure that we show people that we care, and that we're willing to get out there and do the work. And doing the work means knocking on doors, identifying your voters, engaging your community, and certainly Calgary Lockheed. There's some really good examples of how to do it, whether it's urban or rural, and we're happy to show people exactly how we do it. Because with basically 2 years till the next election, I think we can do a really good job bringing people up to speed.
Excellent. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you both, Ronnie. I look forward to seeing you. Max, I'll see you on Monday as well.
Absolutely. I will absolutely. I will live stream the event. I will not be there, unfortunately, because of other commitments. But looking forward to see you at the AGM. That's going to be fantastic. And see you there. It's going to be a good networking opportunity. And thank you very much for your time there. And we'll see you there. And hope for the best success on your campaign.
Thank you so much.
Awesome.